We need to speak about stone-cold hard truths and have that debate, even when it's uncomfortable in the open. That's how I think we're going to save the country. It's a big part of why I wrote this book. And I also think that I'd like to see that standard applied a little more even-handedly across the board. In that same debate, you had Kamala Harris making the claim also repeatedly, many times since, that women are bleeding out in parking lots when there isn't a shred of evidence of a single woman bleeding out in a parking lot of a hospital.
Well, there was actually a woman who died in Georgia who, because there were two women, in fact, one in particular who couldn't receive the care that she needed.
There's no evidence of a woman bleeding out in a parking lot. My point is the kind of rhetoric that's used across the board.
Have you seen evidence of Haitian migrants eating pets? Like, if we're going to talk about evidence, have you seen evidence of Haitian migrants eating pets?
Having gone to Springfield, I didn't see that evidence. But what I will tell you is I'm bringing that up because you brought up the Haitian migrant point. There are residents in the community that have pointed to that. There isn't even that level of a shred of evidence to support a single woman in the United States bleeding out in a parking lot. Yet that's been a repeated claim made by Kamala Harris. So I think when we're getting into fact-checking, I think we should apply the same standards 360 degrees. And I think we should not use Kamala Harris's quote there to sidestep a debate about abortion policy.
The media brought on the wrong person, I'll tell you that. As you saw from the intro, Vivek Ramaswamy, pretty much he's been doing what he's always doing. Even in his campaign trail, he was doing this. He was calling for a consistency from the mainstream media. And as you guys know, if you've been following my channel for a while, if you're new here, welcome. My thing has always been that I would not be as, how can I say, pissed at the media if only they apply consistency to how they approach their interviews. If you look at many of their interviews, Dana Bash is the biggest offender of this. If you look at how they treat Democrats versus how they treat Republicans, you can see a clear difference, a clear contrast of how they treat the two, a politician based on their political affiliation. I'm not going to go on the spiel again, but as you know, there's documented proof that journalism is overwhelmingly biased towards the liberal. Right? They vastly donate journalists, I'm talking about journalists here. They vastly, overwhelmingly donate to the Democratic Party. So to me, there's an appearance of, I don't want to say collusion, but I would say that they're incentivized to positively cover Democrats and negatively cover Republicans, especially when you see the actual outcomes of their journalism. You find that 87% of coverage on Donald Trump is negative, while 89% of coverage on Kamala Harris is positive. And I think this is one of the reasons why many people, it seemed like a close race, is because of the fact that the media is out here running cover for Kamala Harris. And the biggest example is going to be this interview with Vivek Ramaswamy that I'm about to show you. But before that, I want to highlight how many times, as you saw from the intro, when conservatives or when someone makes a valid point against criticism against journalists who are Democrats themselves, there's always something from the journalists to reactively just protect them. Like they'll make some statements, like for instance, when he brought up the fact that, hey, no one's dying in the parking lot, bleeding out in the parking lot, and she tried to immediately make up some story saying, oh well, technically, like already playing defense for Kamala Harris. And to me, a journalist shouldn't be trying to play defense for any politician, right? Especially when the thing is not actually happening. Instead, she tried to turn it around and ask Vivek, oh, did you see Haitian migrants eating cats? And Vivek answers, well, I personally didn't see that, but I'm not going to say it's not happening. Essentially is what Vivek said. And now the left on Twitter, on X, sorry, is running around saying, oh, look, Vivek found no evidence of the Haitians eating cats. When he's, in the day, he's one individual. He's the emphasis on he didn't see. He didn't say it wasn't happening. And this is the kind of word games that like Democrats love to play, liberals like to play, many people on the left like to play. And in this clip, I want to show you the next clip before I go into my reaction video to their interaction with the woke CNN analyst that has a history of trying to defend Democrats. I don't know why. You're going to see that the common tactic that Democrats like to do when they get pretty much called out, right? Democrats, a bunch of rich people convincing poor people to vote for rich people by telling the poor people that other rich people are the reason they're poor, right? They love to deflect and they love to make themselves seem like a victim in every interaction, especially when they're hit with a hard question. Check out this Fox News interview. And this is something I would respect from the media if CNN was equally as forceful on Democrats as they are on Republicans. Let's take a look.
Okay, what is Harris's plan? We're waiting.
Yeah, okay, there's
there's a lot of aspects to it in regards to looking at it online. So let's talk about lowering the grocery costs, because that's something that's brought up. The viewers can look at this online. She talks about certain things in regards to advancing the first federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries, to set clear rules to the road to make it clear that big corporations can't unfairly exploit consumers as well.
Is that
and
happening?
Secure new
Is that happening?
It's not at this moment. No, this is her plan that's laid out for the first 100 days when she becomes president of the United States of America.
Gouging, is that currently happening?
In regards to I don't know exactly if that's currently happening or not, because I'm not privy to that type of information.
Okay.
But there are people are costing a lot of money in regards to groceries.
Okay. It seems like you're having a hard time articulating her plan. And
I'm not.
Honestly,
that's not true. Please, I'm constantly being interrupted by you, which, as a woman, I think is disrespectful. When I'm trying to speak, every time I try and speak, you speak over me.
Okay. Final thought.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. I was giving you time there. All right.
As you saw from the intro, that kind of backs up this narrative. Remember the parody video of the Kamala Harris, the viral parody video that made Gavin Newsom ban memes, right? Or attempt to, have the ability to be like, oh, hey, this meme is inflammatory, whatever. You violated the law, right? Because tyranny is not created with less regulation. Tyranny is created with more regulation. As you saw from the clip, the Democratic strategist had a hard time articulating what exactly Kamala Harris' policy is. And when she got called out for it, she tried to imply that another woman was sexist because she didn't let her finish talking. Like, end of the day, that's gonna happen with anybody. And I don't understand. Look, ladies, don't get mad when I'm gonna say this, but I gotta stop doing that. Like, honestly, Nikki Haley did it in the debate stage. I hate when people use their identity as an alibi or as a shield or a weapon against another individual because you're not good at debating. You're not good at articulating the message, right? Obviously, she didn't know anything about the economic policy. She even admitted in that interview that she was not familiar with the economic policies to a degree, but she wanted to get mad that she keeps getting cut off. Like, come on. When someone's spewing something that you have a hard time understanding, you stop them, because if you let them ramble on, it's not going to be beneficial to the audience or even the person themselves trying to get the information to let you sit there and drone on without like getting clarification on certain things. And this is something that I don't know why Democrat, especially liberal women, they love to do this little routine. Oh, I'm speaking. If you're speaking a bunch of crap, I don't want to hear it. Clarify first, then you can continue speaking. But if you don't answer questions, you're going to get interrupted a lot. Men deal with that all the time. But men react differently to when they get cut off. That's the difference, I think. Right? Instead of trying to play victim or try to win victim points, which many Democrat liberal women love to do, they love to win victim points. Be an overcomer. That's the difference, I think, mainly between conservatives and liberals. When a liberal face hardships, they use it as an excuse to play victim. When a conservative hit hardships, they use it as an opportunity to overcome it. No one cares about fair. People care about results. And Kamala Harris doesn't have the track record to give the results. And I'm going to give an example. I know long-winded, kind of middle, but I think it'll help solidify this point even more about her going to the border.
The vice president has a long history, a well-documented history of really being an ally to these immigrant communities. She has 2 chapters in her book, I Say We Fight and We Are Better Than This, where she really makes a robust case for undocumented immigrants. During the Trump administration, she talked about a climate of fear. She dismissed the border wall as ineffective and a waste of resources. And even her guest at the joint session of Congress was a DACA recipient, was a dreamer. And so for her to go down there and characterize herself as tough on the border, to me, it isn't consistent with a lot of the policy positions that she previously has espoused. The vice president has a long history.
So as you can see, people are not buying this routine of her trying to act like going to the border is not going to do nothing. It's not going to change the perception people have of Kamala Harris. And this is one of the reasons why people don't trust Kamala Harris. Kamala out here saying, oh, I'm going to change my position that I had for years, for decades. Y'all do know Kamala Harris has been in government for 34 years, right? Damn near half her life. I think she's 65. Half her life she's been in government. And all of a sudden, I'm supposed to expect the last year, all of a sudden she changed on a lot of positions she held for years, making robust arguments. If he was making robust arguments for why we should decriminalize border crossings, illegal border crossings, then I expect a robust explanation for why you changed your position. And this is the reality. We can't have 4 more years of where Kamala Harris is taking this country, because essentially she's doing the same thing Joe Biden is doing, making all these bold promises way outside of their own capabilities. Oh, we're gonna codify abortion. That's outside of your abilities. No, even if you're not gonna, this election's not gonna be able to. You're not gonna be able to decide abortion on this on this election. It's up to the states. Donald Trump is literally doing the same thing to the Department of Education. Hey, let's leave it up to the states. Let the state departments of education handle it, because it's obvious the federal government doesn't know how to handle it. But here we are. But I digress. Let's get into my reaction clip with Vivek Ramaswamy.
A big part of the uptick we are seeing in anti-black racism and anti-minority racism, and we are seeing that uptick in the country, and it worries me, is a response to the anti-racist policies that have increased race consciousness in this country over the last several years. I say this, I'm releasing a new book today. I wrote a book about 3 to 4 years ago called Woke Inc., predicting exactly this trend. And that's my concern with race-conscious policies. There is no better way to create racial animus in this country than to take something else of value from somebody else based on the color of their skin. That's a prediction I made in my first book several years ago, and I'm sad to say that has come to transpire. And that man and I had a great exchange. I also think we need more of that in this country. We had several hundred people come out, about 2,000 people RSVP for that event in Springfield, which tells me people across this country are hungry to be heard. And that's how we get our country back, through open debate, free speech, and open dialogue. And that's the core thesis of the book that I'm putting out today.
So, Mr. Ramaswamy, I understand you're making this argument about raising race consciousness from the left, and that's one way you put it in your book. But I do want to kind of circle back to some of the things that we're hearing from your party, from your Republican presidential nominee, who has been traveling, for example, with Laura Loomer, who wrote on Twitter, quote, "If Kamala Harris wins, the White House will smell like curry and White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center." Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said that that was racist. Do you agree with her?
Look, I'm against identity politics in all of its forms, whether it comes from the left or from the right. I've been crystal clear on that. I think we need to revive our shared...
I agree with that statement, man. I don't understand the love for identity politics, but it's like, think about it. It's so easy. Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. If you put out an incentive structure where you can automatically demonize an opponent for raising an objection merely by using the fact that you're a woman, using the fact that you're black, using the fact that you're gay or trans or whatever the social hierarchy happens to be at that time, how is that not a privilege? You can weaponize your identity and say, hey, because you asked me a question and I felt offended by your question, I'm going to leverage my gender as a way to demonize you as a defense mechanism. And you wonder why many people are using sexism, racism as an alibi, as a shield to protect themselves from criticism. As you saw from one of the clips I showed you with the Democratic strategist, she tried to go into that. She probably realized she was talking to another woman and she stopped herself. But if that was a male, anchor questioning her like that, you'll definitely see she'll use the card. And one of the reasons why I think a lot of men don't really want to vote for a woman president is because they know women will do that. Like if you face, because end of the day, with a leader, when you're a leader, you have to open yourself up to criticism. You have to be willing to take criticism, because criticism at the end of the day is feedback. But I say all that just to say that the fact that men feel like, yo, if I put someone in power and I try to criticize that person because they're doing a bad job, that person in power then use the fact that they're a woman to slander me or to avoid criticism or to deflect criticism. And this is one of the downsides or the trade-offs many men see into voting a woman into power, because it seems like women don't want equality, they want special treatment. I digress. Let's continue.
American identity. That being said, I do think we've gotten into a bad habit where Donald Trump says some word or a supporter of Donald Trump says some word, that gets airlifted out and becomes the story, rather than focusing on the substance of the actual underlying issue. The truth of the matter is, as recently as 3 months ago or even 3 weeks ago, we as a country weren't really talking about the kinds of issues confronting communities like Springfield in Ohio, a town that's really important to me and to the country. And so what I do think we need more of is focusing on that actual substance. There are people struggling in that community, including not least of whom are even many people who are, I believe, used as political pawns, as migrants in this game. And so I think the more open debate we're able to have on the substance and the less we're able to fixate on airlifting some particular quote, the better off we're going to be in our discourse.
Pretty much she was calling out CNN saying, stop trying to get gotcha moments and actually start having like fruitful, informed conversations. Right. And I think that's what I was missing in the public discourse. I think that's why I started this channel, because if you're sitting here trying to focus on, oh, I got you, look, I got you. Oh, look, Lori Loomer said this stuff. Okay, but what? Can we just focus on the substance? It's like the left is so quick to try to find some way to straw man you instead of try to steel man you, right? Is this a presumption of, okay, I don't think she meant it in this light? Is this position from the left to automatically assume anything that someone on the right or conservatives or non-democrats say and paint it in the most negative light or in its most negative interpretation, because the left is trying to do something that no human is able to do, and to try to suss out someone's intentions. Humans are sorry, like humans are bad at judging intentions. Humans are good at only judging results, aka actions, behavior, what you actually do, not trying to perceive what you're trying to do. Like it's so like, humans, we have this fascination in trying to predict the future, right? That's why we have polls. This is why we have data, and most parts we can't help it. But trying to interpret someone's intent, that's harder. That's harder to do, in my opinion, because you see many people on the left, they trying to, oh, Trump was saying a racist dog whistle. How you know it was a racist dog whistle? Aren't racists supposed to be the only ones to understand a racist dog whistle? You see how you're implying intent there, when really it's all you doing that. It's you projecting that. It's you assuming that. So if you take it as a racist dog whistle, aren't you calling yourself a racist at that point? Like, how you understand that language if it was supposed to be a dog whistle to racism? Like, make it make sense to me. I don't understand this idea that the left try to psychoanalyze what people do and try to interpret it in the most negative light ever. To me, that is a subjective framing. You don't have no proof of what their intent is. That's why you have to prove motive. And in this case, liberals fail the test every single time. That's why I don't believe them when they go on this little tirade about how Trump is racist, and then you look in his history, you're like, oh yeah, that guy's racist. The guy who won an award from the NCP, oh yeah, he's racist. Okay. It seemed like he turned racist the minute he ran against many of these people's preferred party. And that's the reality. This is why racism and sexism is not being taken as seriously as it once was before, because many people have realized that many people out there nefariously use sexism and racism as a weapon or as a tool to deflect criticism, to demonize opponents, right? And to change the subject or deflect or redirect to avoid asking tough questions, to avoid losing an argument. And this is the problem with identity politics. This is why I say identity politics has ruined the political discussion sphere, because if you happen to be the perceived victim class, you leverage it for your own ends because you use and abuse it. The boy who cried wolf scenario. But I digress. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.